working to bring freedom to the world. My guest today is a new friend, Sergey Brown. If you are following us on the State of Freedom, you probably met him already, but he's the host of Sergey versus Goliath, the co-founder of the Clear Skies movement, and he has a great background that we're going to get into today as well. Before we do that, let me frame this out with a scripture for today. And I really love this one. It's Psalm chapter 71, verses 19 to 21. And it says, "For your glorious righteousness reaches up to the heavens. No one could ever be compared to you. Who is your equal, O God of marvels and wonders? Even though you've let us sink down with trials and troubles, I know you will revive us again, lifting us up from the dust of death. Give us even more greatness than before. Turn and comfort us once again." And a couple things on that scripture. So, one, when it talks about God's righteousness reaching up to the heavens, righteousness can also be translated as justice. And I thought that was so appropriate for this Clear Skies movement. And I think this is a prayer for anyone who cares about the issues of geoengineering and weather modification and spraying the atmosphere with chemicals. You know, it says the Lord will lift us up from the dust of death, and give us even more greatness than before. So let that be our prayer today.
I think that is absolutely fantastic. Sorry, I really thought you were going on further.
No.
I was caught up in the sermon right there. That's exactly right.
Sergey, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for joining me today. How are you doing?
Danielle, I am doing fantastic. It's just another great morning. I wake up in a good mood every day.
I love
but
that.
I've only been doing that for 62 years. Maybe next year I'll kind of take a turn. I don't think so.
No. Why stop now?
Exactly. Why ruin a good thing?
Exactly. Well, I want us to talk a little bit about your background because you have been involved from our brief conversations. What I gleaned from it was that your whole background has involved serving people some way, whether it's through entertainment or whether it's through cuisine and excuse me, sorry. And now you're serving people messages of truth. Would you talk about your background a little bit and what's gotten you here?
Well, absolutely. I was born in Alaska back in 1963 in a time where people had to be self-sufficient. And the way you do that is you work together. I had, two brothers and two sisters and a mother and a father who was not home much at all. So we learned to really take care of ourselves. There's a couple of ways that people can go when you're raised like that. We were very poor, and I just absolutely loved people. And so I just looked at life as a way to connect with people. And one of the things that I truly love to do is help others. And so throughout my life, I've literally served people as a waiter and a bartender, and then I became a chef. I've owned 3 different restaurants, consulted on Lord knows how many, and all of that. One of the things that the restaurant industry teaches you is that joy of service. And you literally build friends, lifetime friends, when you do that type of work. Well, it's just kind of a natural translation into doing the Clear Skies movement. The skies need to be cleared. We know that. We've got some major issues with people's health in America. If we take care of what we're breathing in, about the food we eat, how we deal with our health and our mindset, because all of that is connected, then society as a whole is going to get better. And I think that is one of the absolute beautiful things about taking I don't think about money. I never have. I've never been money motivated. I know there are people that are, but I think that money is a tool that you can use to further your agenda. But it's not the end all say all. When it becomes the end all say all, you take a wealth of life and you narrow it down to one simple little tiny piece in that life, which is money. And I think that it hollows people out. Now, I've met some very wealthy people that are extraordinarily happy because they take a different take, right? That money has been how they got to where they are, but it doesn't mean that's who they are. So I just figured, you know what? Uh, I'll give of myself until my dying breath simply because that's who I am. And I'm driven by the fact that I absolutely love my family. And I have a daughter and a grandson that I think that they deserve a life that is not essentially an atmospheric prison.
Yeah, no kidding. Well, before we move on, I have to know about the restaurants you owned. What kind of restaurants were they? Where were they?
I hope this is a 6-hour show.
Just one.
So when I met my first wife, her entire family, and my first ex-wife is my friend for life. She's my family, and her sisters are my sisters, her brothers are my brothers, her parents are my parents, and uh, we both worked in the restaurant industry. They all did. And so we decided to buy a restaurant called the Chanticleer. It was a small French restaurant that wasn't doing so well in Marysville, Washington. The asking price, this was back in 1990, 91. I think we started negotiating in 1990. The asking price was $150,000. And for a working family, that is a big bite.
Yeah.
And so I just started talking to the purveyors and finding out how much are they ordering, right? Are they down to paying cash? Yes, they are. They no longer have credit. That's a great sign. So I went to them and I offered them $125,000. We didn't have the money, but I figured where there's a will, there's a way. And they flatly turned me down. Nope, no. It's 150. We'll come down, they said, to $145,000. Okay, well, so I waited a few months, kept an eye on it. They were not doing well at all. And so I went back and I said, we'll offer you $100,000. They said, no, you just offered us 125. We said 145. We will come down to $140,000. I said, all right, well, see you in a few months. And so I waited more months and I just kept watch. I talked to the wine distributor, the beer distributor. I knew the people in Washington State, you buy your liquor from the liquor store. So I knew the people that worked at the liquor store. And it turns out that they simply were hardly buying anything. And so I went back and I said, I'll give you $50,000.
Holy smokes.
Their attorney called me and read me the riot act. You're a kid. You have no idea how business is done. This is insulting. Nobody in their right mind would make an offer like this. I don't even know why we're talking to you, but we'll take your 150 or your $125,000 offer. I said, oh boy, by this time it's been 6-8 months. And I said, at this point, we really don't have that money anymore. I said, I think the next time I'm going to call you, we're going to be at about $35,000. And he literally hangs up on me. So I called him back and I said, hey, we lost connection. Are we still on for 50? And he said to me, we will never talk to you again. This is insulting. Lose my number. Bang. Okay. Well, about an hour later, my phone rings from a number in Canada. And it is the lady whose son and daughter-in-law or daughter and son-in-law owned the restaurant. She's the one that put the money up. They were builders. They owned the complex that the restaurant was in.
Okay.
And I said, well, how you doing? And she starts to explain that there are ways. She's been in business a long time. There are ways that you negotiate a sale. and that $145,000 is a good price. And here's why, they bought top of this and top of that, and they remodeled it like this and did all this work. And he was a French trained chef and he bought the best of everything. That's fine. So here's the problem is that we got 50 today, and tomorrow I don't know that we will. We're a hardworking family. We can't afford a French restaurant. We're but I listened to her, and this all goes into service, right? I listened to what she was actually saying, and she absolutely loved that restaurant. And I said,
Yeah.
"Listen, uh, I know that you put your heart and soul into that restaurant. You helped pick all this out. You just told me. And it's not something that you just want to turn over to someone who just wants to run it for the money." I said, "We're a good family and we will run this restaurant like a family, and you'll be welcome and everybody, and we'll make something that you can still be proud of." And she hesitated for a moment, and I knew that we had a deal. And she said, "Okay, $50,000. I said, "We only have 30 of that. Can you carry 20 back at 10% over 6 months?" And she's like, "What?" I said, "Yeah, we actually don't have all that money." She's like, "You're stealing the restaurant from me and you want me to help you?" And I said, "Yeah, that's it." And she agreed to it. And that was our first restaurant. And it's called Fanny's Restaurant. It was named after, my ex wife's grandmother, who owned a number of just small, good food restaurants during her life. And we ran that thing for 31 years, 32 years. They
Wow.
just recently sold it last year. So you know, it becomes part of you. And I watched families bring their children in that had just gotten married, or people that were in their 30s that grew old in our restaurant. I watched kids, generation after generation, be raised in that restaurant, coming in 2-3 times a week. It wasn't about the money. What it was about was that we took care of the people, everybody that came through that door. That is what the restaurant teaches you. The restaurant industry teaches you. I think we're losing a bit of that these
Yeah.
days, but it speaks to a larger cultural issue that if we start taking care of the people around us, life gets better, because life in that restaurant, it was the best part of people's days.
Hmm.
And that was our goal right there. If we could do that to our neighbor, do we know so many people don't even know who their neighbors are? When I get in an elevator, if I see somebody walking down the hall, if I see somebody that I might know, if I pass somebody when I'm riding my bike in the morning, I will ask them, "How is their day going?" And they'll shout back, "Good, how's yours?" And I'll shout back, "Good," as I'm zooming down the pathway there. Because because isn't it time that we stop being so self-centered and give a little of ourselves? And I think, when you start doing that, I know it's tough for some people, but when you start doing that, you smile a little more, you're a little
Yeah.
happier, and your thoughts become better. You start thinking about, what am I saying? How do I say it? And how does that affect the people around me? And in turn, how does it affect me? And really,
Yeah.
that's kind of the circle of life.
Well, I've been thinking lately, I've been listening to a couple different people talking about the value and importance of generosity, and I think one of the biggest um, ways that we can be generous is with ourself, with our spirit,
Hmm.
with friendliness. I mean, we have as a society gotten so insular and so self-focused, and I think that is something that really is we're experiencing the cultural fallout of COVID, where people did a whole lot of navel gazing. Instead
Yeah.
of reaching out, they reached in, and you're never going to find any answers inside yourself.
Hmm.
You only find answers when you reach up to God and when you reach out to people. And so I love that you have created such a community around the Clear Skies movement. It sounds like that's just your nature
It's
to
one big
reach out to
restaurant.
people. The world is one big restaurant.
Exactly.
And the bowl is your martini,
There you go.
huh? How is the Clear Skies movement growing? Because I feel like we connected probably right the maybe the perhaps the weekend of all those horrific floods
Hmm.
in
Right.
Texas.
That's
And I
right.
feel like that was a big spark moment for people to kind of open their eyes. And the fact that we've seen some big name people like Sean Ryan and others
Right.
interviewing
Augustus
the
Dorico of Rainmaker.
yes,
Yeah.
exactly. It's kind of um, taken this off maybe of the vast right wing conspiracy tinfoil hat wearing
Hmm.
terrain and moved it into like something a little still amorphous, but something that people are at least willing to acknowledge exists in some form for some reason that we don't know.
Right. When I interviewed Augustus Dorico in, I think, March of this year, probably 3 or 4 months before he went on the Sean Ryan show, I found him to be affable. I think that he may have been chosen, and he might be being used, or he's all in with with
Hmm.
the Palantir and Peter Thiel, weaponized everything approach. But the Clear Skies movement, really at that point was just starting to go, right? We were less than a month old, I think, when I interviewed him, and we were talking to a few hundred people a week. We now talk to over 1 million people a week through multiple platforms. We've got strategic partnerships, and we are growing like crazy.
You
The
are.
the thing that I absolutely love is I purposely designed it to be decentralized. And what that means is that it empowers the individual. So let's say that I want to take a vacation and head off to the Maldives for a week or a month or the rest of my life. The movement will still move. And that's why I named it the Clear Skies Movement, not an initiative or not an issue. I want it to be something that people think, you know what? I can pick up this mantle and I can start charging forward. And that makes me very happy because we have so many people. I always say that the Clear Skies movement, we're fighters. And I don't mean that we will get out and just kick somebody's butt on the street. No. What we do is we get on a bone and we won't let it go until we have that issue solved. And although we look like normal, average, everyday people from every walk of life, I don't mind if you're Republican, if you're uh, Democrat, if you're independent. I don't care if you're Christian, Muslim, agnostic. I don't care if you're gay, lesbian, bi, pink hair, bald, big hair, an '80s guitar player. Whatever you are, you're welcome in this movement. We look for good people. We don't look at where are you in life? Are you an executive? Are you a senator or a representative? No, we look for really good people. And I think that resonates with the people that have joined the Clear Skies movement. And now we're working on, getting a more formatted structure and see if we can start raising some money.
Awesome. Well, I'm excited about that. And I do think decentralization is the way forward for anything that's going to be successful.
Yeah.
Because if there's one thing that the pendulum of our complete hands off approach to government has taught, at least me, and I think it's taught you and a number of other people who are involved in some aspect of fighting for freedom or trying to claw it back, is that ceding and centralizing power is
Mhm.
the absolute worst thing we could possibly do.
Absolutely. Because it's about the message. It's about literally clearing the skies from the geoengineering. And I'm not just talking about the spraying, the solar radiation management, the stratospheric aerosol injection, the marine cloud brightening, the cloud seeding, the ice nucleation. I'm also talking about the radar, the heavy radar that is literally cooking our minds and our bodies on a daily basis through 4G, 5G, HARP radar, NextRad, Doppler, and the Neutrino Ice Project, Project Ice Cube that Raytheon has going down there. That I think they're firing away. I think they missed their shot a few weeks ago and hit Sandpoint, Alaska. But I think that last week when they fired that up and hit Russia, they were right on target. And I think that the
Wow.
earthquake that just happened in New York was Russia firing back.
Whoa. Do you
Yeah.
think that's how do you what technology do you think they're using for that? Is it a scalar?
You know, it's hard to say. I think that they're using a number of technologies, right? When you develop a weapon like that, you have to use any number of technologies that not only create that energy, but then has the ability
Channel
to
it.
focus it and then deliver it on target. It's just like a nuclear warhead. All right, so you have the power plants that create the nuclear. Uh, Material, and then you have to be able to put that in something that can detonate that, and then you have to put that inside a warhead, and then you have to have a rocket that you can launch, and then you have to have a guidance system that guides it wherever you want to go. And so and then you have to be able to track it, right? You have to know,
Yeah.
did I just shoot myself in the foot, or did I get the neighbor that I'm aiming at? And so yeah, I think that there's any number of technologies that are being used to do this.
So, have you heard of any developments from Washington? I know when we spoke on the State of Freedom a couple weeks ago, Marjorie Taylor Greene had just filed legislation. Now, I mean, let's be honest, the legislature's not busy getting much done, and they're on
Right.
recess now. So, I don't expect that to have any real updates. But have you? I know we saw a little bit from Lee Zeldin. Anything else that you've seen?
So Marjorie Taylor Greene, put her HR 4403 up, and it is kind of a tintype of Florida's SB 56.
Okay.
Susan Clark, who was started, Zero Geoengineering and Zero5G.com. She's the one that it writes all this stuff, and she's extremely good at it. And she really wanted to tighten the language up in SB 56, but Ileana Garcia didn't want to do that for whatever reason. This is what concerns me is the reluctance in our representation, be it senators or governors or representatives or mayors or whoever, the president, to put up real legislation that works.
Right.
But then Lee Zeldin comes out and he's the head of the EPA and he says, yeah, okay, we've been doing geoengineering for the better part of 60 years, but don't worry about it. We've got it all under control. And what I think they're trying to do is, we at the Clear Skies movement, we raised our voice. We got two big pieces of very dangerous AI weaponization of the weather legislation pulled out of the one big beautiful bill.
Hmm.
I think that it raised the alarm in this administration and in the deep state that the people are starting to get restless and we don't like being poisoned on a regular basis. So what I think is happening is Lee Zeldin came out to try and manage the conversation, to take it over and steer it in a way that's favorable so they can keep putting fly ash and graphene oxide, strontium, barium, aluminum oxide, aluminum hydroxide. They can keep dosing us with whatever virus they want. All they have to do is weaponize it. Yeah, we know that bacteria sits inside hail, and ice nucleation technology does exactly that when they cloud seed. So all you have to do is spray a bacteria or a virus, ice nucleate it, let it fall to the ground, and then people become infected. So yeah, I think that the conversation has greatly turned. I mean, when I started this, end of February, beginning of March, nobody was talking about it. Monty Fritz from Tennessee had his legislation passed, but it had no teeth. Monty knows that, and he's writing a follow up bill that is being summarily just pushed into departments that bills go to die. But we are marshaling the troops and growing in those states with our chapters in order to support good legislation. I used to tell people we support policy, we don't support politicians. There's a reason that we say that. We are about clearing the skies. If we support good policy, that keeps us focused. If we start supporting candidates, that kind of all of a sudden we're in the whole mix, and there's things that we don't agree with all candidates. Some candidates we don't agree with anything.
Right.
So one thing that we want to do is we want to take the information that's already coming out about, yes, the EPA is saying they want to be transparent. They're not being transparent, but they're presenting themselves as transparent. Marjorie Taylor Greene has a bill up. Yes, they are on recess, but it would be nice if she reached out to me and the Clear Skies movement so we can get Susan Clark back in that mix and tighten that bill up. What are they so afraid of? That's what really we need to answer is, why is our government, why are the people that we elect to represent us so afraid of actually doing their job? Are they bought off? Are they are they part of the problem? Are these bills, because these bills, they look like it's just a way to placate society and say, look, we did something, and this guy, it's just contrails. Well, it's not contrails. It's literally murdering Americans, and they do it around the world. So it's not just America. But at what point do we start holding these senators, representatives, governors accountable? The president, the vice president, the head of the EPA, the head of the CIA, the head of DARPA, the head of NASA, the head of NOAA. I mean, I could go on and on and on.
Right.
The list is very long. At what point do we start holding them accountable for harming U.S. citizens?
That's right. I have 3 threads I want to pull on from what you just said. The first is we've obviously, we're in a post-democratic society, post-republic society right now that we're trying to claw back. But at what point does the government, this may be a rhetorical question, what point does the government actually start being transparent with the people? We're living through this time right now where we're seeing all the D-class of this Russiagate stuff. And I'm like, wait a second, why is this crap hidden from us in the first place? What gives these people the arrogance to think that they can sit up there and hide this information from the American people, the very people who pay for their fat lifestyles? So that to me is absolutely something that is a big piece of this movement, and it has to be, is taking back and demanding transparency.
The moment that we allowed government to be a full-time, well-paid position is the moment that we became a post-constitutional America. We just didn't know it at the time. And now people get into government to make themselves extraordinarily wealthy. Think Mitch McConnell, Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, Paul
literally
Ryan.
All of them except for maybe 5,
Exactly. That's exactly right. So I just watched a thing about Dan Crenshaw a couple of months ago, the guy with the eye patch down in Texas there. Pardon me. He is making a small fortune on his insider trading, and it's not supposed to be illegal, but it is, because we have a 2-tiered system of government, and sometimes it's 3-tiered, right? The people at the very top, the Obamas, the Clintons, the Bushes, the Rockefellers, the Rothschilds, Bill Gates, right? The list is literally as long as Santa's list. They don't get touched. They get to live a very free life. Nothing applies to them. They can literally do whatever they want, no consequences. Then you have your middle class, right? These are the politician, the political class, your CEOs, the people that are not the bazillionaires, but they have enough money, influence, and power that they're good. You know, they're good sergeants, right? They're out there. They are the ones that then control the lower class people, and that is you and me. Sorry about that.
Yeah, well, it's true.
But what happens is now the law applies to you and I 100%. And then they
Maybe
have
150%.
exactly. That's exactly right. And they can indict a ham sandwich, as they say. And so they can also choose not to indict that ham sandwich. And that is exactly what happens.
Yeah.
So if you play along and you're a person in the position of the power and you're in that mid tier, then okay, we'll make a show of you. And they have to, because they have to put pressure on them. So we're going to shut you down a little bit. We'll throttle you. You'll go to a fancy prison for 2.5 years. Yes, you may have been involved in trafficking children and harvesting body parts, and you made millions of dollars doing that, but you didn't pass that up the line. And so what we're going to have to do is we'll catch you, you'll pay the price, and then you'll come back out and you'll just get right back to work. We have another position for you. So you become another one of Santa's elves, really.
Yeah.
And then what they do is the people below that, you're right, 150%. You jaywalk in some states, bang, you're fine, because they have to drain as much money out of your and my pockets. Because if we're not worried about eating, about having a place to lay our heads at night, or getting our kids off to school, and it's illegal. You can't not send your kid to school, right? You will be hauled off to court and you'll lose your kids. They'll be turned into the government. And all of a sudden, you have a society that you start realizing, I'm not exactly free. That's one thing that we want to fight with the Clear Skies movement. We need to start eradicating all of these crazy laws that are not applied to the mid class and the high class. If everybody's equal, okay, I can get behind that, but I can't get behind. You know what? Hillary Clinton doesn't go to prison. Bill Gates doesn't go to prison. What's his name with the COVID shot doesn't go to prison. No, not at all. Pfizer, nobody pays a price. We don't have a system of justice. What we have is a system that picks winners and losers. I don't like that.
Isn't it hysterical that these politicians that sit in that mid to upper tier seem to have a really great grasp on economics whenever it comes to stealing our money,
Phenomenal.
but they have a really horrible grasp of economic development when it comes to tax reform? So they can understand that it's going to take a lot of people with $2-3 each to fund their lifestyles, but they can understand that it's going to take a lot of people to widen the tax base so we could have some relief. They have like a sudden blindness when it comes to that. It's really amazing.
Absolutely. It shocks me that Nancy Pelosi, everybody knows, from what we know, right? She's got money also stuffed in huge bank accounts offshore that we don't have privy to. But what they can track, she's now worth 400 and some $million. She was a state senator. I think she started as a representative, became a senator, and all of a sudden she's Speaker of the House. She's making huge trades, and she says, "Oh, it's my husband."
It's her husband that manages the money.
Yeah, no,
Sergey. He's better. He's twice as good as Warren Buffett. Just give credit where credit's due.
You really have to, and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, she's become just a brilliant trader. She understands the market as well as she understands her constituents. So
that's right.
Yeah. It's ridiculous for me to think anything else.
Well, conspiracy theorists are going to conspiracy theorize.
Right. Exactly. Absolutely.
Okay. The two other threads. You mentioned aluminum hydroxide. I wanted to pull on that because, and you mentioned, oh shoot, I had the word in my head.
Graphene oxide?
Graphene oxide. I don't know why that one doesn't want to stick with me. Well, we know that graphene oxide was one of the main ingredients. A lot of the whistleblowers and people who were very much anti the COVID vaccine we're talking about. And so they're spraying that on us if we weren't already concerned about what was
Right.
being sprayed on us. And then I just learned last week, and I know we talked about this briefly offline, that aluminum hydroxide is the vector, I guess, that bench scientists use to create allergic reactions in mice, to not just to create allergic reactions, but to actually create an allergy that lasts for life. What they do is they put this aluminum hydroxide with whatever they want the allergen to be. They mix them together, they inject the mouse, and then that mouse is allergic for life. Well,
Exactly.
come to find out, that's exactly how they're creating allergies in humans, because aluminum hydroxide is a big adjuvant in most, if not many, vaccines.
Yep.
And so I can't even imagine what this is doing to the population if they're spraying this on all of our food and you're eating the food and then suddenly people are popping up with allergies they never had before.
Yep. Well, one of the things about aluminum hydroxide is it carries stuff, right? Like you said, it's an adjuvant. And what you can do with that is you can not only introduce the aluminum into the body, the aluminum hydroxide into the body, that does cripple your immune system, your endocrine system. It pass the blood-brain barrier, the placental barrier. It can seep in through your skin, unlike a lot of other things, right? We have to breathe certain things in. What that means is that I can take a particle that will pass through those ridiculous masks, right? Of the masking a population, what it does is it stops that exchange of gases that is so important. It literally dumbs down a person wearing a mask for any amount of time. That's why they pump pure oxygen into operating rooms so the doctor doesn't start thinking, oh my God, what am I doing here? No, what they need to do is have a lot of oxygen coming in if you're going to be wearing that mask. But people wear them all the time because there's a lot of sheeple out there. So with that aluminum hydroxide, it's being used to carry anything from that graphene oxide, right? It can carry that
Mm.
in through your skin into your body. It allows them much greater reach, and not just us. It affects every bacteria, every plant, every animal, everything that keeps our atmosphere alive. That dangerous, highly toxic aluminum particle will damage, and it will carry with it whatever bacteria or virus they want. Now, they can get enough in your system that it makes you sick in one way, shape, or form. And then they come up with come right behind that with their propaganda, and they scream, you have this, and we are the only ones that can stop it. And so now you need this in your veins. And that's when they really have you. Now, all of a sudden, they get to inject you with more of that disease or virus or bacteria, and then they get to drag a wrecking ball through your system with mRNA technology that changes your DNA. That is the danger of what they're doing. I mean, if you are worried about the frogs dying and the insects dying, we don't even, I mean, we used to have bugs down here in Boise, Idaho. We don't even see any bugs this year. The bird population down by 30%. The bee population down by 60%. The plankton population, the plankton in the sea is down by 60%. These are not good signs. These are warning signs that are saying, stop. We need to rethink what we're doing, unless the goal is to depopulate by using things like graphene oxide and aluminum hydroxide.
And this gets us exactly back to the point of the absolute need for transparency. Because if there is a good reason, right, that they're doing some of this stuff, we need to know who's doing it, and we need to know why they're doing it, and we need to know what they're using. Because, for instance, I've heard some people say that maybe that the military is behind this, and even
Mhm.
and Secretary Bobby Kennedy said this as well. He said that it's DARPA that's doing it. If this
Absolutely.
is something that's like part of a missile defense system, then we deserve to know about that.
Hmm.
We absolutely deserve to know about that. And then, because I think we even talked about this on the State of Freedom with you, where is the informed consent?
Right. The fact of the matter is that transparency is a marketing term. It is not real when it comes to government, big business, or any of these people that are dealing with the treatment of U.S. citizens. And the informed consent, voting, and unless things change dramatically, voting has been for generations
Yeah.
has been a sham. And we know through, I mean, literally from the USAID, just, I mean, that alone, what they have dumped into making these voting machines vote however the people that are in charge, that hold the keys to these things, however they want. And that means that you and I have no voice at all. So now the vote is bad, it's corrupt, and our politicians don't listen to the people. It's time that the people start grabbing their virtual torches and pitchforks
Yeah.
and get on to your emails, pick up your phone, show up at meetings, and start raising your voices and in mass, and let our elected officials know that we're tired of all this BS and we're not going to put up with it anymore.
Yeah, I do have a couple points I wanted to mention to you. I was doing a little research before the show, and I wanted to know if SecDef Hexeth has said anything about this. And what I found was, thanks to Grok, that he hasn't made any specific comments on chemtrails, geoengineering, weather modification, but he did order the elimination of climate-related planning from the Pentagon, including a review to remove references to climate change and related subjects. So I don't know if this was part of more a DEI ESG sweep, or if this is going to have broader reaching implications.
It absolutely is. What Grok left out was the term woke. Pete Hegseth came forward in late March, I think, and said we are going to eliminate all of the woke
Yeah.
climate change policies that are part of the Department of Defense. And so I called and I emailed and I called back and I emailed back and I called and emailed and called and emailed, and I spoke to the somebody that was in charge of essentially answering the phones, and they said, "I'm sorry, but we have nobody that can follow up with you on this." And so it tells me that they're not serious about it.
Yeah.
It's what they're doing is they're getting away from, yes, putting soldiers in high heels for cross-dresser training, but they're not doing anything that will stop what is going on in our skies. And so we need to make sure that we are the ones that hold people like Pete Hegseth accountable. And if they won't do the people's bidding, get rid of them. We have to be willing to get rid of everybody. Donald Trump, you won't do it, you got to go. Right? It's to that point, because how much longer? I'm just look at how bad everything has gotten over the last little while. Just since Donald Trump has gotten in office, since he was elected, the spraying has doubled or tripled, quadrupled probably the amount of energy waves that we now see in the sky. And look at, I mean, we had since January, we've got 5, 6, 8, 10 once in 1,000 year floods. We have the entire West is on fire. Alaska is burning almost 500,000 acres. And if you don't know how many 500,000 acres is, it's a big area. And it's still burning today. It could be twice or three times that size today. We got another fire over in Lahaina, right? We've got earthquakes that we know we have the technology to literally crack the earth. And then if Russia is indeed firing back and hitting New York City, what does that mean? And why would our government do this to us? That's the biggest question. I don't believe that it is a anti-missile shield. We have much better technology than that. So, and I mean, say what you will, our government lies to us constantly, all day,
Yeah.
every day, every single one of them. I do not trust anybody in office. I trust them enough to force them to do the right thing. I do not trust them enough to do the right thing on their own.
It sounds like, I mean, we've known we're at war, right? We've known that we are in some kind of fifth generation warfare,
Mhm.
irregular warfare, narrative warfare. But perhaps what's going on in our skies is literally 5GW, is
Yep.
literally they're using 5G to harness and to direct and weaponize whatever it is they're spraying on us against us. That's so sick, man.
And are they transhumanizing us? We've got
Right.
6G on the horizon. We've got our bodies filled with metals, toxins that resonate at certain frequencies. We know that the old talking line is Doppler only works on this frequency, NextRad only works on that frequency. Turns out that's a complete lie. They can work on whatever frequency they want, and they can tune it however
Mm.
they want. And this is why you see, when a storm comes by and those Dopplers just start firing over here or firing over there, and then that storm all of a sudden turns and goes up into North Carolina mountains where it's never been, and then sits there and dumps an ocean worth of rain. All of a sudden you see the damage that weaponizing the weather can do. And it is, I mean, the Guadalupe River, Kerrville, Texas,
Yeah.
over, I mean, the flooding, we've got, flooding over in New Mexico, where they want to put, new smart cities and power plants with the Pacific Palisades. Not a single, not a toothpick of building has been rebuilt in the Palisades. People in Lahaina still can't get to their property 2 years later. They can't even walk onto that land. The military, the United States military, is there keeping people out. Why is that? Well, it's
Why
because
is
they
that?
can, because people have slept through the revolution. It's almost time that we say, hey, they've won, but it's not time. So let's start making sure that we get this transparency issue up. We need to know what's going on, good, bad, or indifferent. We have to know what's going on. If there is indeed an ELE, an extinction level event coming, why aren't we prepared? Why do the most wealthy and powerful, the people that only focus on money, and we talked earlier about how that just absolutely thins out somebody's soul. They're not good people. They are only out for themselves and how much money they can make. Why do they get multi-billion-dollar underground bunkers that they can spend 10 years in the lap of luxury, and you and I don't even get to know what's going on? It is, to me, it absolutely, it screams revolution.
So I want to pick on that third thread here, and that is we've seen legislation in Florida, Tennessee, Louisiana. Has it netted us anything? Are the skies getting any clearer from the people that are in the Clear Skies movement? The reporting that happens there, is it making a difference?
No, the legislation has not made any physical difference. What it has done is it has brought this topic from people not even believing that it exists to the head of the EPA, a very
Yeah.
powerful man, Lee Zeldin, in the Trump administration, being forced to come out and manage the conversation. That type of exposure you cannot buy. And it
Yeah.
tells the world, because the world goes the way America goes. And so if America is now admitting, yes, we do it, China's been admitting it for years, but people, wait until America does, because there's this misconception that America is honest and transparent. It's not. They're done because we force them to do it. The thing that excites me beyond belief is that we have now pushed the national legislation on them, right? Marjorie Taylor
Mm.
Greene is the obvious, the obvious person to bring out legislation like this. Was she picked, right? Or did they purposely tin type a very porous, loophole filled, uh, you know, um, Florida bill or law, SB 56, to bring onto the national stage just so they can say, all right, we can keep doing this? Or is she trying to do something right? I don't know. But the fact of the matter is, more people than ever, and I think that's why the Clear Skies family is growing exponentially by the day. The fact of the matter is that we are now able to not have to worry about saying, is it happening, but what do we do about it? And that's it's enormous. It's huge. And
It's
I'm
huge.
really thinking that the Clear Skies movement will be in a position that we have grown large enough that we can affect the midterm elections. I'm telling you this, if Elon Musk comes out with the American Party and it has a platform that says transparency is number one, and here is how we're going to do it, right? We don't need to pass the bill to see what's in it. What we need to do is see what's in the damn thing. And then all of us say, okay, that's right. And I also want to make sure that the people at the very top are held accountable. If you're guilty of treason, pay the price. That's it. There's no we're going to use the Epstein list to kind of leverage that on. We're tired of all that because that got us here in the first place. So yeah, I'm going to say that we need to focus on getting more legislation, tightening up the language. Marjorie Taylor Greene, give me a call. Reach out to me. You have my all my contact information. Let's tighten that bill up, unless you're afraid to, unless your whole approach is to not do it and make sure that you're just saying, oh well, we did it, and now look, it's still going on.
If you had one person in the administration, in the entirety of the US government, or really, I guess, anywhere to talk to about this issue, who do you think actually knows what's going on?
Well, it's probably going to be Kash Patel. I think above everything, he is the one that is extremely dialed in. Pam Bondi is too much of an insider. Kash Patel still has a hint of credibility left, even after the massive Epstein debacle that they tried to sweep under the rug. But I think that Kash Patel holds a lot of the cards and knows a lot of people in both the CIA, the FBI, the Department of Justice that that he can get real answers. And the FBI, of course, has essentially they tin type all of the evil information that the Department of Justice and the CIA and the NSA, former NSA, have in their coffers. And so yeah, I would be very interested to see what he has to say.
Fascinating. He was not he wasn't even on my radar as someone to talk to
Uh,
about this. So I'm so glad you picked him because he is the guy who can do something about it, and he is the guy who can get the answers. So that's a great choice. What does a solution look like? Let's say we find out what's happening and it stops tomorrow. Our soil is still destroyed, our water is a mess, our health is a mess. Have y'all started being able to consider what real solutions, what real healing looks like?
Well, absolutely. So I think that we need to get back to a number of things that we were doing generations ago. And that is eating within 100 miles. And so in order to do that,
Yeah.
we're going to have to start building more smaller local farms that
Yeah.
feed the local populations. And we need to get into a regenerative farming way of life. McDonald's, companies like that, they've got to go.
Yeah.
There, I said it, because they're feeding sugar and not even real sugar, right? They're feeding a high fructose corn syrup or a very refined, beet or pea sugar in every bit of their product. Their meat is not even meat.
Right.
So what happens is the human body doesn't have nutrition. We've cut cholesterol out. We've made cholesterol and fat the bad guy. We need to start adding that, and we need to add animal fats. We have to get bacteria growing back on plants so our wildlife stops wasting away, right? When an elk or a ruminant goes out and eats that grass, they get rid of the fibrous part. What they're doing is those stomachs in a ruminant, they are eating the bacteria just like a whale eats plankton. And so vegetables are good, but they don't feed anything. It's the bacteria on those vegetables that animals eat. And then we harvest those animals. We need to
Oh,
get way away from massive farms, pig farms, chicken farms, cow farms, and go back to a more localized way of doing it. And by that, we need by doing that, the laws have got to change so we can have gardens on rooftops, so we can keep a cow or a goat or whatever we need in town. Chickens. If everybody had a handful of chickens, I don't know about you, but I've raised chickens, and they'll go through just about anything. And so we can bring back fantastic areas simply by letting animals eat poop and then walk that into the soil or till that into the soil. And all of a sudden, we're starting to regenerate. It's not going to be easy, but it took, 60 years to get us here. So
yeah.
let's start getting back to that, because is there going to be a turning point, a tipping point? I don't know. And are
I,
we close? I mean, those are the two questions that I ask all the time.
yeah. Well, I certainly pray that we're close because people are sicker than ever
Yeah.
and people are looking for answers. One some encouraging things for me are, one, this topic is not verboten anymore. People are actually starting to go to their doctors and say, stop giving me that crap. I
Hmm.
want you to tell me why I'm sick, and I want you to fix that. And to me, and people are seeming to take more interest in farming, taking more interest in
Hmm.
having some connection with daylight, with nature, with getting away from social media. I mean, it's not everybody, but I think there's a move toward that right now, and I think we have a lot of reasons to be hopeful. I try and remind myself and our listeners and viewers very often, President Trump is fighting a war on more fronts than we can even imagine.
Right.
And I don't know what the order of operations is for him. It seems like he's doing about 15 things at one time. So I want to give him a little bit of grace on any given topic that's important to me, because who knows what else he's saving us from. But the fact of the matter is, we are being poisoned, and we don't know by who, and we don't know why. I mean, other than the obvious of they want to kill us.
Exactly. And we need to understand what the depopulation plan is and what it is coming out of the WEF and the WHO and the NIH and Anthony Fauci, right? He's done a lot. Right now, they're saying 17 million people have been culled out of the planet just by the COVID vaccine. The vaccine, not COVID.
It's so sick.
Yeah.
It's absolutely sick. Well, Sergey, I'm glad you brought up regenerative farming, because tomorrow on the State of Freedom, we're super excited to have Steve Jarvis coming on.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah,
You'll
he's going to
love
be on
him.
with us at 10. Now, he did give us a heads up that he is at the behest of the office of Secretary Kennedy, so he may get called away. So if he does get called away, we'll still be on air. We've got plenty to talk about what's happening in Louisiana. So please, everyone, plan to join us tomorrow. Sergey, thank you so much for joining me today. It's been an absolute pleasure. You are just a delight, and I'm so thankful that you are fighting this fight, that you are growing the army, and it's just really exciting. And I believe we're going to have some great payoff from this. I want to remind our viewers as well that if you're interested in advertising with us, please reach out. You can email me at Danielle@freedomstate.us. If you're interested in shopping any of our partners, you can do that at freedomstate.us. And if you are not big in social media, and even if you are, please go to our website and just sign up for the exclusive updates. We want to keep you updated on what we're doing. We are not going to spam you because I don't have that kind of time. But we love you all. Thank you so much again, Sergey, for joining me. I hope you will be back on soon. I know our audience loves you.
Danielle, it is my absolute pleasure, and I'd love to.
Awesome. We'll see you soon then.
All right.
Take care.
Bye.
That was really fun.